Daddy, is she going to be okay? The question was so small, his daughter's voice barely a whisper. She stood in the hallway, her stuffed rabbit pressed to her chest. Her name was Blythe, 4 years old, serious eyes. She had heard the coughing through the wall. Their neighbor had been sick for 3 days. Blythe had noticed before he did. His name was Cass Marrow, 33, single father, warehouse shift supervisor, the kind of man who kept a grocery list on the refrigerator and read the same 3 picture books every night without complaint. He had raised Blythe alone since she was 18 months old, quietly, steadily, learning as he went. He was not a man who talked about hard things, he just moved through them. He crouched down to Blythe's level. She's going to be fine, Bug. She just needs rest. Can we bring her something? Blythe asked. When Grandma was sick, you made cookies. He looked at his daughter, at the rabbit, the absolute seriousness on her 4-year-old face. Yeah, he said, we can make cookies. It was 10:40 at night. Their neighbor's name was Willa Soren, 27. She had moved into apartment 4B 3 months ago, with 2 suitcases and a box of books. She was quiet, kept odd hours, and had declined every casual invitation on the floor with a polite but firm smile. Cass had assumed she was simply private. He had not pushed. He left a welcome note under her door the first week and left it at that. He didn't know she was sick until he heard her coughing through the shared wall on Tuesday evening. By Thursday it hadn't stopped. When he knocked to check, she had opened the door looking pale, apologetic, and entirely unwilling to ask for anything. I'm fine, she'd said immediately. Really? You don't look fine, he'd said, not unkindly. I never do when I'm sick, she said, and almost smiled. He'd left it alone. But Blythe hadn't forgotten. So at 11 p.m. on a Thursday, Cass Marrow stood in his small kitchen measuring flour, while his daughter sat on the counter in her pajamas, feet dangling, very carefully pouring chocolate chips into a bowl. She counted them as she dropped them in. 1, 2, 3, until Cass gently redirected the whole bag. We're making enough to share, he said. Obviously, said Blythe. They baked 24 oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, the apartment filled with warmth and the kind of smell that makes a place feel safe. Blythe fell asleep on the couch before the second tray came out of the oven. Cass covered her with the blanket from the armchair and finished alone, quietly, in the way of a man used to finishing things alone. He knocked on 4B just after midnight, soft, in case she was asleep, but the light was on under the door. Willa opened it in a robe, tissues in hand, eyes tired. He held out the container without a speech. Oatmeal chocolate chip, my daughter's request. She was worried about you. Willa looked at the container, then at him. Something moved across her face, not just gratitude, but something older. Surprise, maybe. The kind that comes from not expecting to be looked after. She's 4, Willa said softly. She notices things, Cass said. Always has. Willa took the container with both hands. Thank you, Cass. Genuinely. He nodded and left her to rest. What Cass did not know, what he had no reason to think about while measuring flour at 11 p.m., was that Willa Soren was the founder and operating CEO of Soren & Crumb, a bakery chain with 64 locations across the country. She had started it at 22 from a rented kitchen in Portland, and had grown it methodically, carefully, missing most of her 20s to spreadsheets and supplier negotiations. She had moved to this city for the company's regional expansion. She was, on paper, one of the more successful young entrepreneurs in the food industry. She had also not had a home-baked cookie in 4 years. Every baked good in her life was a product, a sample, a prototype, something to assess, something to sell. She sat on her couch that night, with the container open on her lap, and ate 3 cookies in silence. They were imperfect, slightly uneven, one a little overdone at the edge. They were the best thing she had eaten in longer than she could explain. She stayed sick for 3 more days. Cass left a container of soup outside her door on Saturday. No note, just soup. Blythe had insisted on drawing a get-well picture which he taped to the lid. A lopsided sun, a figure in a bed, a rabbit. Willa kept the drawing. When she recovered, she knocked on Cass's door on a Tuesday evening. She had a bottle of juice for Blythe, and a direct question for Cass. "Where did you learn to bake like that?" "My grandmother," he said. "She said baking for someone was the most honest thing you could do. You can't fake it. It either comes out right, or it doesn't." Willa was quiet for a moment. She was right. She paused. "I want to tell you something, about what I do." He listened as she explained. He didn't react the way people sometimes did, with sudden performance, sudden distance. He just nodded slowly. "So the cookies were," he started. "The best I've had in years," she said simply. "Because someone made them at midnight because a 4-year-old was worried about me. That's not a product. That's something different." Several weeks later, Willa offered Cass a real opportunity. Not charity, not a favor. She was launching a campaign for Sorenant. Crumb built around the idea of home-style baking, the kind of recipes that come from grandmothers, from late-night kitchens, from love rather than production lines. She wanted consultants, people who actually baked that way. She wanted his grandmother's recipes, properly credited, fairly compensated, and she wanted his honest input on what made something feel like home. He sat with it for a week. He talked to Blythe about it, the way he talked to her about everything, simply and honestly. "She wants to use Grandma's recipes?" Blythe asked. "With our name on them," he said. Blythe considered this with great seriousness. Grandma would like that, she decided. He called Willa the next morning. The collaboration was quiet, practical, and real. It did not change who Cass was. He kept his job, kept his routine, kept the grocery list on the refrigerator. But once a month, he sat across a small table from Willa Soren, with a notebook, and talked about the kind of baking that couldn't be scaled. The kind that existed only in the middle of the night, when someone you barely knew was sick, and a small voice asked if there was something you could do. One evening, walking back from the market, Blythe slipped her hand into his. "Daddy," she said, "did Willa get better because of the cookies?" He thought about it honestly. "I think the cookies reminded her that people care," he said. "Sometimes that helps more than medicine." Blythe nodded, like this confirmed something she already knew. The moral is folded into that midnight kitchen. A man with flour on his hands, and a tired 4-year-old asleep on the couch. Baking simply because a small voice asked, "Can we do something?" He didn't bake to be noticed. He baked because it was the right thing to do with what he had. Kindness doesn't need a reason bigger than that. It just needs someone willing to stay up a little later for a neighbor who needs to feel that someone cares. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.